In our last episode, we finally sent Kasumi home. We found out what happened if Kasumi went home and told her parents that she was a synth, if she went home and told her parents that she was a human, if she chose to stay in Acadia, or if she died. We've finished the quest that brought us to the island. We have resolved every faction's troubles on the island, and now we're left with one question. Which of the myriad of choices that we have is the best one? Well, there is no best choice. At least, not for everybody. The best choice, the best ending, is dependent upon what we as a player want to get from the island. I think we can split this choice into two broader categories. A choice made from a role-playing perspective, and a choice made from the perspective of maximizing your player's monetary gains. That is, getting the most loot. We'll start with loot. Now, we are awarded a significant amount of caps by doing all of the quests here on the island, but I'm not going to count caps in this, because in most gameplays you get to a point where caps really aren't a problem. You can buy pretty much everything, especially if you focus on your settlements, you get into manufacturing, etc., etc. So excluding caps, let's take a look at each of these endgame options to see which of them gives us the greatest reward. Now, when talking about destroying Acadia, I'm going to completely omit the Brotherhood and Institute avenues to do so, because neither of them give us any reward. We get experience, but we don't get caps and we don't get loot. We destroy Acadia in the service of our faction. Thus, no further reward is offered. To maximize the loot we get, we need to destroy Acadia and one of the other factions. Doing so is the only way to walk away with 2 of the 4 available quest-related perks. The first way to do this is to destroy Acadia and the nucleus. This is the most straightforward way. If we take the evidence that we found in the basement of the Vimpop factory to Alan Lee, he storms Acadia with the people of Far Harbor, we get the Destroyer of Acadia perk, and he gives us Lucky Eddie. Then, if we go to the nucleus and use the nuclear launch key on the vessel, we get the Far Harbor Survivalist perk. 2 perks, 1 item. We can walk away with more loot by destroying Far Harbor instead of the nucleus. After destroying Acadia and getting Lucky Eddie and the Destroyer of Acadia perk, we can use the Wind Farm kill switch to destroy Far Harbor. Then, when we go back to Tectus at the nucleus, he gives us either the Inquisitor of Adam or Crusader of Adam perk and Adam's Bulwark. In this way, we walk away with 2 perks and 2 unique items. If instead we decide to go along with Dima's scheme and plot for peace on the island, we only walk away with 3 items: the Protector of Acadia perk, Acadia's Shield, and Adam's Bulwark. Since this option is peace between all 3 factions, it's unavailable to us if we destroy any of those other factions. It's the only way to get the Protector of Acadia perk. We can still get Acadia's Shield, and then go on to destroy some of the other factions, but this is still a net loss, because to get Acadia's Shield, we have to agree to keep Dima's secret, and by agreeing to keep the secret, we give over the evidence of Dima's crime, making it impossible to get Lucky Eddie. Now, we may not need Lucky Eddie and Adam's Bulwark for our build, so maximizing the number of items we get from Far Harbor might not be the best solution for our character. But if loot is our goal, then peace doesn't pay. But what about from a role-playing perspective? What's the best decision on the island for each faction we can roleplay? Well, if we're roleplaying as the overboss of the Raiders, then killing them all is, I think, the best choice. We can maximize our loot by destroying Acadia with Alan Lee, then using the kill switch to destroy Far Harbor, and then after picking up our loot from Tectus, buying what we want from every merchant, stealing from every container in the nucleus, we can use the launch key. The island is now ours, and all we have to do is fight off the trappers. The best ending for an Institute playthrough, I think, is pretty straightforward. We simply inform the Institute of the existence of Acadia and complete forbidden knowledge at our leisure. I don't think the Institute really cares about anyone above ground. Therefore, I think to roleplay as a member of the Institute, our characters should pretty much be disinterested in the petty politics between the three factions. From an Institute perspective, the children of Adam are crazy, but whatever. They don't threaten the Institute. They're not worth our time. The people of Far Harbor are xenophobic and prone to violence, but whatever. They don't threaten the Institute. They're not worth our time. The only faction that raises an Institute eyebrow is the Acadian faction. And so I think to best roleplay a member of the Institute, we should inform Dr. Mosley, destroy Acadia, and recover as many synths as we can. Then head back to the Institute for a nice protein cube and rehydrated water. I think things get a little bit more complex when doing a Brotherhood playthrough. Destroying Acadia is paramount. The synths there are an abomination. What Dima is doing is scary. The Brotherhood has to wipe them out. But unlike the Institute, I think the Brotherhood, in their own twisted way, still does care about people. They care about the Brotherhood more. They care about the Brotherhood first. But unlike the West Coast chapters of the Brotherhood of Steel, Maxon's Brotherhood of Steel is not hermetic. They don't isolate themselves in a bunker. They do actively recruit people from outside their faction. They're sociable. They interact with the people of the Commonwealth and of Far Harbor. I think they realize that the future of the Brotherhood in Boston is dependent upon the health and well-being of regular everyday people in Boston. Without recruitment, they won't be able to inject their faction with new blood. So even if this care comes from selfishness, I do think they would be distraught to see other people destroyed for no reason, which is why they actively oppose raiders. And for this reason, I think they would object to the existence of the children of Adam. I think they would probably side with the people of Far Harbor. I think they would be frustrated and short-tempered with the proselytizing of missionaries from the children of Adam and would likely just try to solve the situation by blowing up the nucleus. So if I was doing a Brotherhood playthrough, I would first destroy Acadia and then destroy the nucleus, giving the island to the people of Far Harbor. Now, when it comes to the railroad and the Minutemen, things get a little bit more complicated. And I think that either faction could side with Dima in either way and be able to justify it. For the Minutemen, I think the idea that Dima kidnapped a woman in the dead of night and murdered her and then replaced her with a synth would be horrifying. It's the very thing that they have fought against in the Commonwealth, the very thing that has kept so many people of the Commonwealth up at night, that has terrified young children. The Minutemen find it happening here also on the island, and Dima is to blame. I think they'd be very upset with Dima for what he did, and I think that they would demand that Dima be brought to justice. And yet, at the same time, the Minutemen are all about peace. Fighting for peace. Peace between these three factions may be a pipe dream, it may be implausible, but everything about the success of the Minuteman is a pipe dream and is implausible. It takes a lot of faith to believe that the Minutemen can rally a city, can rally a region, and stand against better organized foes. So if any faction could believe that peace on the island would work, I think it would be the Minutemen. Now, we do have to make some rather untasteful decisions to achieve peace on the island, but none of which I think are outside the realm of what a Minuteman stands for. While the idea of replacing a human with a synth might frighten them and even disgust them, one could argue that Dima's vision for peace is unavoidable. The only way to get peace on the island is to replace Tectus. And the only way to replace Tectus is with a synth copy. That might be a reality, that a general of the Minutemen might have to accept. Yes, we have to get rid of Tectus to put a synth copy in his place to achieve peace, but we have the option to kill Tectus. We could simply banish him, or perhaps a Minuteman general would convince him or herself that killing Tectus is a justified execution, that Tectus's crimes are so great that his death is now necessary. It becomes justice to kill Tectus so peace can reign on the island. So ultimately, I think role-playing a Minuteman general leans more heavily towards the justice route, making sure Dima pays for his crimes, and yet leaves open the peace route. Because ultimately, what the Minutemen care most for, what they're fighting for, is peace that allows their families and their farms to thrive. They care about human life. Bringing Dima to justice might be the right thing to do, but it won't lead to peace. It only leads to more dead bodies. The railroad could go either way as well, however, I don't think they would be very squeamish with Dima's plan. Ironically, it's Dima who criticizes the railroad for their methods. It's Dima who dislikes the mind wipes and the facial reconstruction that the railroad does. And yet at the end of the DLC, we find ourselves trying to defend a Dima who has undertaken those very things, once with Avery, again with Jewel, and potentially a third time with Tectus. So I think this would be a no-brainer for the railroad. Oh, we've got to kill a guy and replace him with a synth copy to get peace? Sure, yeah, we do this all the time at the railroad. At the same time, however, the railroad is all about justice. After all, they're in the synth game because it's an injustice for people to be prejudiced against synths. So even though their faction isn't advocating a lot for human justice, the fact that the original Captain Avery was kidnapped in the dead of night and murdered by Dima would bother them. And I think they would still want justice for that crime. However, ultimately, I think role-playing a railroad character would lean more towards using a synth replacement to achieve peace between the three factions, and less towards demanding justice of Dima. Yet both of those factions, I think, could easily go either way. But those are just my thoughts, ladies and gentlemen, and I'd love to hear what you've got to say. Which faction did you side with in your playthrough, and for what reason? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I publish many Fallout videos each and every week on my channel, so if you don't want to miss the next one, be sure to subscribe and to click that bell notification button. If you have already but you still feel like you're missing out on YouTube notifications, consider following me on Twitter at Oxhorn. I update Twitter manually with every new piece of content that I publish. I've got a brand new shirt in the shop. Glory to Adam! This completely unique design that you can't find anywhere else comes in a variety of men's, women's, and children's sizes, and in a wide array of colors. You can find it on other products as well, like smartphone cases, pillows, posters, mugs, stickers, prints, etc. So if interested, you can find a link to my shop in the description below, or you can click here. If you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming a patron on Patreon or a member here on YouTube. YouTube members and patrons on Patreon are becoming increasingly important as YouTube continues to make platform changes that make the future of YouTube monetization uncertain. So to all my patrons on Patreon and my YouTube members, you have my sincerest thanks. I could not do this without you. But more than anything, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon with more brand new videos.